So who doesn't like taking a whole lot of photos when they travel? Because I know I do. I take a ton of photos. But the thing is when you get home and you're looking at all those images and you're wanting to start to edit those images, you want to edit them in the way that it felt during the time that you were capturing that image. And that's actually what we are talking about today. And I'm going to be walking you through how I edit one of my photos from Hawaii, which just so happens to be one of the images that I took on that failed POV shoot. And if you don't know what that is, you can check the link up here and it explains everything. But anyway, let's just go ahead and jump into Lightroom and get started. Okay, first things first, we have to fix this horizon. So we're gonna come up to the crop tool, hit angle, and just drag it straight across. Done. Come down, make sure we enable profile corrections. And then we're gonna come back up to the basic control panel and start getting the entire image into a pretty good shape. So first off, you're gonna look at the sky and you're gonna say, oh, it's blown out, but it's actually not. If you really wanna know if you actually have blown out highlights or blown out darks, you can come up here to the histogram and this little triangle says show highlight clipping. So if you click on it, there isn't any red dots or any red elements at all. However, if I jack up my highlights, maybe my whites, you're gonna see a lot of red. Then it's clipping. You can also do that with the blacks if you want. Bring those down, and then it's gonna turn a blue. Just a little quick tip. So first off, I'm gonna bring down the highlights, and then I'm gonna bring down the whites. Okay, and then I think I'm gonna lift the shadows just a bit, and then bring the blacks down just ever so slightly. Reduce the contrast just a little bit. And then I always like to add a little bit of texture just to bring a little bit of the detail out in the images. And then I'll push a little bit of the dehaze. Now, most of my images, I just kind of have a standard vibrant setting and I just put that at 15. And we're in a pretty good place to get started. The main thing about this image, which was really cool, it was a father and a son and they were just looking out at the waves. The sun was going down. It was such a beautiful sunset. And I want to bring those colors back and I want to portray the warmth and the ending light of day in this image. So that's where I want to kind of go for today. Now I did shoot this with a warm white balance, but it's still not warm enough for me. So I'm just going to kind of bump up the temperature just a little bit in the white balance to something about right there. And then I'm going to come down to the tone curve and I'm going to lift the blacks just ever so slightly. Bring the midtones down to about right here, maybe the highlights as well. And if you want to have a little bit more control over some of the points, hold the Alt button, lay down your point, and it kind of moves a lot slower, giving you a little bit more control over the fine detail that you're wanting to achieve. One thing that I really like to do, especially in my tone curves, is to add a little bit of warmth into the midtones. So what I do is I go into the blue tone curve, add a little dot closer to the highlights and a little dot closer to the shadows. Then I'll press my Alt button and I'll grab right in the middle of the midtones and kind of bring this down a little bit. Since I have done that, I'm pushing a little bit of warmth also into the shadows. That mixed with me warming up the white balance, it's just a little bit too warm for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that blue and I'm going to push a little bit more of it back in the shadows on this tone curve by just kind of adding one here and adding one right there. Just to kind of take a little bit of the warmth out. Let's kind of move this up. And about right in there. Okay, so the next thing that I want to do is I want to start trying to make a little bit more of selective edits in certain areas of the image. So the first thing that I want to do is I'm going to try to focus on the sky. So I'm going to select the sky as a mask. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of bring down the exposure just a tick. And then I'm going to give it a little bit of warmth. Nothing too crazy, just enough to where the sky matches the surfboard. Then I'm going to make a mask of the dad and his son. So we'll select the subject, and it's actually not getting all the little bits and bobbles. So let me just fix this mask really quick. Now I'm going to lift the shadows just a little bit. Maybe bump up the highlights. Give it a little bit of some white into it as well. Maybe push down the contrast ever so slightly. And I'm just going to add just a tad bit of texture to it just to give them a little bit more detail in their skin. Now, one thing that you need to remember is that when you are lifting characters or lifting people or any kind of element in an image, you don't want to take it too far because you do not want them to feel disconnected from the background. You want them to feel as if they are in the same world. So the biggest thing is to keep an eye out for not pushing it too far. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my brush and then I'm going to mask out the ocean because right now it's a little bit too green and I'm going to push a little bit of blue into it. All right, so now I'm going to push just a little bit of blue into it. Not much, just a little bit, just enough to kind of kill the green out just ever so slightly. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is I want to get a linear gradient. I'm going to kind of put it down here in the bottom and then just kind of bring down the shadows, bring down the whites, kind of maybe a little bit of the highlights to kind of take some of the kick out, and then bump the contrast ever so slightly. Now the reason why I'm doing that is because I want you not to look at that bottom edge. I want you to kind of look up into the middle of the image and then kind of out into the open air and of the ocean. So you can see, turn it off, turn it on, your eyes kind of just go away from that darker area. So now I'm gonna start playing with the colors, and that's really where you're gonna get the feeling of, oh, it's sunset, it's warm, the sun's going down, it was a lot of mist in the air and stuff like that. That's where we're going to start getting that. So I'm gonna come on down to my color panel here, and then I'm gonna start pushing and pulling some of the colors. Now with the luminance panel, I like to use this to darken certain aspects, especially certain colors in all of my images. I'm not gonna really push and pull on this too much today, but I'm going to bring down my oranges just a little bit, bring down the yellows ever so slightly, and maybe bring the blues up. You're gonna kind of get some of the blues and the aquas in the surfboard and a little bit in the ocean. Not much, just a little bit. Okay, so we're really starting to get that feel that it is warm, the sun is starting to go down. Now, what I wanna do is I wanna come up and do a radial mask. I'm gonna pull this up here. And then what I'm gonna do is I am going to take the contrast down, lift up the shadows just ever so slightly, add a little bit of the whites so it feels like the sun is coming in from the side of the image. And then I'm gonna come down and take that dehaze down to give it a little bit of a glow, which gives it that feeling of the sun is just right off camera and it's just kind of cascading across the image and giving it a little bit of a hazy feel, because during that day there was a lot of haze and a lot of spray. And then one little final touch is I'm going to probably just bump the warmth just a bit. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to the shadows, and then I'm going to kind of pump a little bit of warmth into the shadows. And then I'm going to kind of blend it a little bit. You can slightly see it, but if I think I'm taking it about over to 78. Let's see, about right there. Sometimes with images, it's all about the subtle tweaks. You don't have to make like dramatic tweaks, but this is just enough to make it feel that much more warm. I think I'm going to take the contrast up just a bit, maybe something about right there. Okay, so one thing that I want to do is I want to come down to the calibration tool and kind of push and pull those colors just a little bit to really accentuate that feeling of that we were at sunset. So I'm going to come down to the reds, and I think I'm going to bump up saturation to about here. Then I'm going to take the greens and bring them to about there, and with the saturation I'm going to kind of boost that. And then I'm going to take the blue hue and just bring it over a bit. Yeah, it's about right there. That's nice. Okay, so now the guy's skin's starting to become a little bit too orange, so we're going to come back up to our saturation and our colors, and just kind of start bringing it back down so that he feels a little bit more natural. At about something like that. I have said this in the past in one of my other tutorials, is that if you squint your eyes, you'll notice that there are certain things that kind of blend into one another. So if you squint your eyes and you're looking at this image, you're going to notice that the kid's surfboard and the surf behind it, the same tone. So I kind of want to separate those a little bit. So I'm going to make a mask and darken the area behind that surfboard. Okay, we're just going to bring the whites down ever so slightly. And then maybe the highlights. Yep, the highlights is ever so slightly, nothing too crazy. And then I will probably bring down the exposure slightly. The thing is that you do not want it to be noticeable. You just want to be able to feel that there is a distinction between the two areas. And one final touch that I like to do is I'm going to come down to the sharpening panel and I'm going to hold the Alt button, grab the masking, bring it all the way over till I see what I'm actually masking out, and then bump the amount just to about here. And then I'm noticing that there is a little bird or something in this area. So I'm going to kind of fix that really quick because it just looks like a speck of dirt. And there we go. Okay, so this is what we had as a raw image. And then here's the after where we made it feel more like an actual sunset. And I think I'm going to call this image done. So guys, if you got anything out of this video, let me know in the comments down below. If there is anything that you would like to see me edit, or if you have any questions, also drop a comment down below. And like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. Oh, and hit the bell so you get notified whenever I post new videos. And guys, I have noticed that a lot of you who are watching my videos are not subscribed. So please consider doing that. It would be great to have you guys around. And I will see y'all in the next video. Okay? See y'all later. Bye.